These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die like fire and powder, which, as they kiss, consume. William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. Do you remember what it was like being 12 years old? Everything was starting to change. You saw people differently than you had before. You're still a child, but you're starting to feel like people should treat you like an adult. Your interests are shifting just as much as the world around you, and you're starting to carve out your own niche, your sense of self. Sometimes when you're 12 years old, being denied what you want can feel like the end of the world. In Jasmine Richardson's case, it was. Mark and Deborah Richardson met in a substance abuse recovery program. They fell in love and swore to live their lives sober going forward because they wanted to give their children a stable home and a good upbringing. Jasmine was born on October 21st, 1993, and her brother Tyler followed a few years later. The family of four was a tight-knit middle-class family living in Medicine Hat, Alberta. Jasmine was your average, well-behaved preteen. She had lots of friends, she kept her grades up, and she was involved in her school's fine arts program. Then summer 2005 came, and things began to change. Jasmine's interest started to shift in the direction of the macabre. Horror and darkness became some of her favorite things, which is why she was enamored when she saw a group of goths while hanging out at the Medicine Hat Mall. It wasn't long before her friend group began hanging out with them. Mark and Deborah were understandably disapproving of this new friend group, as their young daughter was now spending time with people as old as 21, and they felt it was inappropriate. Between August and December 2005, Jasmine created multiple social media accounts for sites such as MySpace, Nexopia, and Vampire Freaks. Despite being only 11 at the time, Jasmine could easily pass for 15 to 18. She posted risque photos of herself to her accounts, but that was just the beginning of her rebellious behavior. And like every stereotypical rebellious kid, she also formed an interest in punk rock. It was at a concert for one of these punk bands that Jasmine was introduced to Jeremy Steinke. Jeremy was a social outcast who, desperate for somewhere to belong, began to hang out with the children and teens of the Medicine Hat Mall goth kids. Born in 1983 to Jacqueline May, Jeremy had a rough upbringing. He lived in a trailer with his alcoholic mother and physically abusive, alcoholic father. During his childhood, he also had two different stepfathers who also abused him physically. He was bullied at school, and due to fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, his mental age was much lower than his physical age. By age 14, Jeremy was smoking pot and branched out to try acid and mushrooms. He self-harmed, abused drugs and alcohol, and even attempted suicide. Having dropped out of school in the 10th grade, Jeremy didn't have a great outlook for the future. He had no money to his name and no friends. And yet Jasmine was infatuated with him. He was dark and mysterious, obsessed with the supernatural, and claimed to be a 300-year-old werewolf. He wore a vial of blood around his neck because he liked the taste. He was exactly what she thought she wanted. Jasmine was 12, and Jeremy was 23 when they fell into a disturbing and ill-advised relationship. The pair talked constantly, be it on the phone or over the internet. They exchanged messages on social media as well. Jasmine would frequently sneak out of her house to visit Jeremy at his trailer, and they would spend time together at the mall. It wasn't long before their family and friends found out Jasmine and Jeremy were dating. No one was happy with the news, and Jasmine didn't take their displeasure well. She began to act out more, getting into trouble at school and leaving her little brother home alone. Mark and Deborah had enough and took away Jasmine's phone and computer. They even took the steps to put the family into counseling. Things got better for a while. With Jasmine's behavior improving, Mark and Deborah decided they would allow their daughter to attend a concert with one of her friends. The only provision was that they would also be in attendance. During a break in the show, Mark and Deborah lost sight of Jasmine. They searched the venue and surrounding area, and when they finally found her, they weren't happy with what they saw. Jasmine was making out with an older man in a black hoodie and dark makeup. It was Jeremy. Mark and Deborah were rightfully upset and grounded their daughter, once again taking away her phone and computer. But Jasmine was determined to be with Jeremy. She continued to disobey her parents and found ways to talk with Jeremy online. She even found ways to meet up with him, and their relationship turned sexual in April 2006. Due to Jasmine's age, if they were ever found out, Jeremy would be charged with sexual assault, but it was a risk they chose to take. Fed up with her parents' vehement disapproval of her relationship, Jasmine sent Jeremy a message on Nexopia. "I have a plan. It begins with me killing them and ends with me living with you." Over the next couple of weeks, the pair would make their plans. Jeremy asked a friend, Grant Bolt, if he wanted to help, but he declined. Later, Jeremy would also ask homeless 17-year-old Jordan Atfield the same question. He would also refuse. Jasmine and Jeremy would put their plans into motion on April 23, 2006. Around 5 a.m., Jeremy gained access to the Richardson home via a basement window Jasmine allegedly left open. Here, he encountered Deborah. He attacked the woman and stabbed her to death. Having heard his wife's screams, Mark went to investigate. In the basement, he found his wife lying on the floor covered in blood. He also found her killer. Mark jumped on Jeremy and attacked him. The pair struggled and fought, but eventually, Jeremy managed to throw Mark off. Unfortunately, he was overpowered, and Jeremy stabbed him to death as well. The last member of the Richardson family to have their life brutally cut short was 8-year-old Tyler. He was found in his bed with wounds to his chest and face, but ultimately died from his throat being cut. It remains unclear if it was Jasmine or Jeremy who killed him. After the murders, Jeremy and Jasmine fled with the help of their friend Casey Lancaster. The family was quickly discovered when a friend of Tyler's came over to play and saw the bodies through the basement window. Police were called and the investigation moved quickly. Originally, the police believed Jasmine had been abducted from the home, but the evidence they found said otherwise. The following day, Jeremy Steinke, Jasmine Richardson, and Casey Lancaster were arrested in Leader, Saskatchewan, roughly 80 miles from the crime scene. Though her crimes were horrific, Jasmine, known only to the media as JR, was under the protection of the Youth Criminal Justice Act as soon as she became a suspect. The Canadian statute, originally published in 2002, was put into place to ensure consequences for young offenders are well balanced. Under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, anyone under the age of 14 at the time of conviction cannot be given more than a 10-year sentence, nor can their names be released to the media. Jasmine pled not guilty to her charges, but on July 9, 2007, she was found guilty on 3 counts of murder. Believed to be the youngest person in Canada to have committed multiple murders, she was only 13 at the time of conviction. On November 8, 2007, Jasmine was sentenced to the maximum her age would allow, which was 10 years imprisonment. She got credit for the 18 months she already served, to be followed by 4 years at a psychiatric institute and then 4.5 years under conditional supervision in the community. Casey Lancaster, who had originally been charged with being an accessory to murder, had the charges dropped when she pled guilty to obstruction. She was given 1 year under house arrest. Jeremy had his trial later in the following year, which quickly resulted in 3 guilty charges for first-degree murder. While in custody, he admitted his crimes to an undercover officer. It was also believed he drew influence for the murders from the movie Natural Born Killers, as he said it was the best love story of all time. Despite the nature of his and Jasmine's relationship, Jeremy received no charges for sexual crimes as he never admitted to such a relationship. On December 15, 2008, Jeremy Steinke was sentenced to 3 concurrent life sentences, 1 for each murder. He will only be eligible for parole after 25 years served. In the 18 years since the brutal slaying of her family, Jasmine completed her sentence and rehabilitation, and has expressed remorse over her actions. Upon her final sentencing review, a judge told her, "I think your parents would be proud of you. Clearly, you cannot undo the past. You can only live each day with the knowledge you can control how you behave and what you do each day." Jasmine has since been given a new identity and had her record expunged. Jeremy Steinke, now Jackson May, in honor of his deceased mother, is serving his sentence at Edmonton Institute. One question remains, however. Was Jasmine actually a willing participant in these horrific crimes, or did Jeremy groom and manipulate her? Children are known to say dramatic and often hurtful things at the height of anger, but rarely do they truly mean their words. Was this a case of deep-seated evil coming to light, or of a monster twisting and shaping the volatile heart of a child? As always, we wish to thank you for tuning in to Villains with Vaughn, and hope that each case that we present grants you new insight on the villains therein. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and any comments you'd like to share with us, be it an answer to any question we ask, or just a suggestion for a new topic, let us know down below.